If you're running an AI agency and wondering why clients aren't coming in, this video will save you the next 6 months of your life. Not because I want to hype you up or sell you anything, but because I've seen too many smart builders waste months in this space doing that same handful of mistakes. The crazy part is that none of this is technical. It's not about knowing about AI or knowing about API keys. It's about how you show up to do the actual work. And until you take the time to fix that, no amount of building will save you. If you're new here, I want to be clear on who I am. My name is James. I'm 19 years old, based out of Ontario, Canada. I run an AI agency for home service businesses. I'm not here to flex. I don't have a Lambo or a nice high-rise apartment. I'm just a guy building voice AI in a niche that most people don't want to touch. I've been on this journey for over a year, and along the way, I've learned 7 crucial things that most agency owners learn way too late or not at all. Here's what I think most people get wrong about why they're not selling. They think it's their tech stack or their offer, or they just need to know more information. It's none of that. The biggest problem in the AI automation space right now isn't competition. And contrary to popular belief, it isn't saturation either. It's a trap of looking productive without doing any true money-generating activities. Every day I see builders spend hours on N8N or brag about the new app they built on Claude Code. However, they've sent 0 cold messages. They feel like they're winning, but in reality, they're losing, just very slowly. I'm not being judgmental, I'm just commenting on it because I used to be that person. That's the overarching theme of this video, but now let me get into the 7 specific ones. The first lesson is that picking a niche sometimes feel like you're losing, but in reality, it's not. Usually when I tell people that I specifically focus on home service business owners right now, they ask me why I'm cutting my market in half, as if it's some crazy thing to only focus on one market. Here's the reason, because nobody's going on Google and searching up AI agency. Instead, if they're looking for the service, they'll go to Google and say AI receptionist for HVAC companies. If you're a generalist AI agency, you're invisible to those searches, but if you're a specialist like me, you're oftentimes the only result. Picking a niche can sometimes feel like losing, which I understand because you can clearly see everyone that you're cutting out. What's not always visible to you is who you are now visible to. Lesson 2, your offer isn't broken, your outreach is. I see this happen way too often in this space because I used to be exactly the same way. I'd look to always tweak my offer and say this is exactly why I'm not getting clients when I'm running my cold call or cold email campaigns. But in reality, it's because my outreach methods weren't dialed in, my systems weren't tight. Usually when you get caught in this cycle, you take a look at the pricing, restructure that whole entire thing, you make a new landing page, and you do the whole process over and over again, looking for some sort of special guarantee that will guarantee people to buy with you. And what's usually happening, the builder is sending very few, if any, cold DMs a week and way too scared to pick up the phone to make a cold call. Doesn't matter how good your offer is, if it's not in front of anyone, no one can purchase. The offer is really the bottleneck, the reps are, and if the offer really is the bottleneck, the reps will help you notice that way sooner. Before you tweak your offer one more time, pull up your phone, go to your messages, go to your phone call history, and see how many cold messages or calls you've done this week. If that number is under 50, which is very low to be fair, then you don't need to touch your offer one more time, you need to get in the trenches and start making dials. The phone isn't ringing simply because you're not picking it up. Lesson 3, building feels productive because it's the most expensive procrastination. This one, I'll go to war over. There are 2 types of agency owners, builders and sellers. People that dominate the industry are the sellers. People that take up the most space in the industry are the builders. The reason behind this is actually a lot deeper than you think. Builders default to optimizing what they can control, the system, the prompts, the workflow, the demo. All things where each input can be easily measured. Outreach isn't like that. It can oftentimes give you rejection or, even worse, silence. The feedback loop is brutal because we don't control it, so we run away quietly and, in our mind, productively. We tell ourselves that we're polishing the demo or tightening up our funnel, but this is just an excuse to not pick up the phone. We take a second to give a calendar audit to an AI agency owner that's struggling. I guarantee you that 85% of their time is stuck in build mode, while the other 5% is having real conversations. This should be flipped. Building gives you the illusion of progress, whereas outreach gives you real progress. In the moment, they don't feel like that, so just pay attention to how it feels in the long run. Lesson 4 is a little bit more specific to me and exactly what has worked for me going forward, which is that cold DMs are greater than cold calling, which is greater than cold email, specifically when it comes to the trades business. I've run cold outreach to over 500 service-based businesses across the GTA, and here are the results. Cold email had the lowest reply rate by a mile. These guys aren't sitting on their phone checking their inbox every 2 seconds. They're in the truck on their way to a job. Cold calling had decent connect rates. However, the voicemail to real conversation ratio was absolutely terrible. And with this, you could burn through hours on end and only end up having a handful of real conversations. For me, cold DMs on Instagram has been the surprise winner. Why? Because home service business owners are on their phones constantly when they get a break from their job When they're at home falling asleep, or even when they're at the dinner table, they're constantly on their phones. But what I will say though, so you don't get discouraged, is that all methods of outreach do work. Sometimes it's just about what works for you and what one you enjoy doing more. Lesson 5 is a little bit more niche specific, but what plumbers actually care about. I spent way too long getting this wrong. When I used to walk through demos, I used to spend way too much time focusing on all the technical capabilities. A long story short, and I'll save you a lot of time, plumbers simply do not care about the AI API keys. What they do care about is this: a missed call can cost them between $200 and $800 per job. After-hour calls go to voicemail and that person never gives their business a call back. The receptionist, if they have one, just simply takes a message and passes it along if they remember. Every conversation needs to translate into one of these numbers. AI is the means, money saved or produced is the deliverable. If you can't sit across from a plumber and explain to them simply in plain English how your system will recover them $5,000 every single month minimum, then you're not having sales conversations. You're giving demos, and demos don't close. Lesson 6, why stop trying to sound smart about AI. This connects heavily to lesson number 5. Early on, I focused on not using the biggest words to try and sound as smart as possible, or even on my slide decks, putting those same words there. But in real life, those plumbers would always graze over and never even ask me any questions about it. Now, my current pitch is simply one sentence. This system answers the phone when you simply can't and recovers you thousands of dollars every single month. In reality, sounding smart makes you feel comfortable in the jargon and insecurity. But in reality, when you can make it as simple as possible so that someone with no background in technical understanding can understand exactly what you're trying to say simply, then you've done a good job. Lesson 7, what I'd tell the version of me who started over a year ago. If I could send a message back to me on day 1, here's exactly what it would say. Don't build until you have a real customer. You'll spend months and countless hours building a system or a product that nobody wants. And then once you have a real conversation, you'll spend the same amount of time making something that someone actually needs when you could have superseded that entire process. Make sure that you niche down from day 1. Pick a boring niche and focus on it and become an expert in that field. Don't try and become a jack of all trades. Outreach is the main part of the job. Building is just a side quest. Make sure that you focus on those things accordingly. And finally, the only thing that separates the builders and the sellers, the people that dominate the industry and the people that stand by, is courage. The courage to pick up the phone, the courage to send that DM or ask for a discovery call. None of this is technical. You know what you need to do. Just do the part that scares you, and I promise you'll see results. 12 months ago, I had every excuse to wait for the perfect time, for the perfect offer, for the perfect niche, the perfect whatever. But I didn't. And that day that I decided to take that first step and stop productive procrastination, the day that my life changed forever. Agency owners that made it in this space so far aren't the smartest, not the brightest, and not the most technical. The ones who decided they'll do the most uncomfortable thing for the longest period of time, and now they're reaping the benefits. It's your turn. If you enjoyed this video or learned anything at all I ask is that you subscribe so I could keep dropping knowledge.